What is going on, guys? TheBrokenMachine here. Hope you're all doing good today. We've got plenty of new BF5 info, new gameplay, new guns. We got it all here straight from the developers. First things first, soldier visibility has been tweaked a little further, looking much better than what we saw in the previous video.
It's not straightforward. You can't just turn up one knob and then visibility goes away or the problem goes away and it looks beautiful. You can't have both. You have to sort of find the middle ground here. And I think we have, what you see now is closer to what we will ship with for Rotterdam, that map specifically. Obviously this is specific to every map and every sort of weather state.
Thankfully, netcode issues have been addressed and there should be no more instant deaths. Getting shot around corners, dying instantly, that was a nightmare in the BF5 beta. Interesting changes to aim assist. Auto rotation, that's the auto snap, is out. Honestly, I'm totally fine with slowdown, that's what I use. So no more instant snapping on with shotguns and rapid fire weapons seems like a pretty good idea to me. You know, I don't like dying to shotguns, you know, just snapping onto you straight away. That is really annoying. And definitely some balance issues with the auto rotation, especially when it comes to shotguns. So for me, I'm glad that is out. I would suggest keeping the slowdown though. With all the FPS drops, input lag, VSync on console, I do think it's good to have a little bit of a magnetic or a sticky effect if you're on target. Only if you're on target though. Lots of good changes coming to Specializations too.
Yeah. I think Specializations was one of those things we got a lot of feedback on in the open beta. And I think we agreed with a lot of things that were said as well. So we've gone back and we looked a lot at what we can do with the Specializations to make them feel more like what we want them to be, which is more interesting choices that impacts the way you play and not just straight upgrades on the weapon, right? So one of the things we've done is that we've made sure that it's a choice from the get-go. So as you'll see when we look at them, it's always a choice from level 1 down to...
Yeah, you have A and B columns here.
Always, yeah. I think we also worked a lot with the UI to actually explain to you the impact of the choice to the weapon when you do a specialization on it, both beneficial and sort of side grades or downgrades on the weapon. So I think that will help a lot.
I have two questions for you, and it's two questions that people have had a lot of comments about. And the first one is that players felt that the progression or the weapon specialization actually gave you too large of an advantage versus other players. I would just like to help them to be calm. So can you please explain what we're doing?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, well, again, we don't want players to feel like they are at a sort of objective disadvantage when they start off the game, just because of the specialization. So what we're looking at is that the starter weapons that you'll have, they will probably have some type of predefined specializations already on them. So while you might not have as much freedom of choice as someone that has played a lot with that weapon from the beginning, you should never feel like you're sort of at a disadvantage just because you're coming in as a new player. So that's one of the important things we're doing.
Yeah.
You'll see this very sort of visual overview of how the weapon journey looks like, and then what you'll see is that in the beginning of the journey we're very focused on the sort of gameplay and specialization aspects of it, and that's not something that we want to just sort of artificially stretch out. That doesn't help us become a better competitive shooter, but we do want to ease you into all the choices you get to make with that weapon. I
mean, they're there for every choice when it comes to gameplay is there to sort of help you find your playstyle with this weapon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And there are different choices to sort of specialize, hence the name, how you use it and what you're good at with it, right?
Precisely. And then the second part of the progression is more focused about sort of the proficiency and mastery of that weapon. So we'll have these assignment chains, for example, which really focus on both sort of teaching you the in and outs of the weapon and how to use it, but also towards the end, just showing like really the mastery of that weapon. So that's both about showing skill and time spent with that weapon. And the rewards from these things are also some of the sort of coolest weapon sets we have in the game. So when you see someone on the battlefield running around with those weapons, you know that they know their way around that gun. And if they're on your team, you can be sort of safe that they're someone you want to have on your side.
Yeah.
Much needed clarity right there. Let's hope there is enough there to keep us playing and ensure decent balance.
So let's start off with the gunplay. So I have a question here that is, what's the ambition with the Battlefield 5 gunplay and the general direction that we're taking?
So I think for Battlefield 5, what we did is we set out two big pillars for ourselves. So the first one was have a clear weapon character and feel for each of our weapon classes. So make them feel distinct but at the same time not restricting too much to that behavior. So examples are like assault rifles are all about burst firing. Semi-autos are all about like finding that rhythm to fire. The bolt actions are all about that single shot to land. And then the second pillar, which is the main one, is we wanted our players to really be able to learn and master our gunplay in general. And in order to do that, we set out a few steps. And the first step was we want to allow the player to understand what was going on, because if that's not the case, it will frustrate the player, probably, if stuff's going on that he or she can't foresee. But if a player can, then that means that they learn what's going on, and if they learn, that means that they can improve. So those were the steps that we set out to do with our gunplay.
Yeah, we wanted to make the experience, I mean, you as a player to feel more in control and make it a more physical experience. Right. So when you actually are firing a weapon, you really feel like you're actually in control of that weapon. You are able to control that weapon. And when you move around the map, combined with the movement systems that we have, you really feel like you always have a responsive and controlled experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you can go a bit into the details of what changes we've actually been making during the development and what it took to actually get to where we are today?
Yeah, so we started from basically going through the previous Battlefield titles and trying to understand what players actually really liked about those titles and the things where we actually could use some small improvements. One thing that we realized is that spread is something that is really, really hard to communicate to the players, and we really tried our best to actually improve on that area. So the first thing we've done is we tied spread to the front sight, so that the weapon actually moves according to that. So you can actually understand whenever you actually are not in control of the weapon anymore because there's too much spread, you will actually see your actual weapon moving around. So you actually get an instant feedback. We've done some extra changes with adding the recoil pattern. So the initial first few bullets are very, very easy to distinguish because you always get more or less the same trend. We added a meaningful single fire mode that actually changes the stats of the weapon, so you can actually fire on longer ranges with an assault rifle. And we also have a bunch of extra systems under the hood that we actually can use to tailor the experience to actually what we want to build with that specific weapon to build the character.
Did you spot that new decoy over there? That is pretty creepy. I gotta be honest, the ones in BF1 were terrible. They were so easy to spot, but these ones, these are definitely going to catch you off guard. And that's going to be a good thing for some of these open maps. You know, if your teammates are sniping and they've got these down, they may just give away your opponent's positions. I'm loving them. Honestly, I think this is a good change. Gunplay looking good as usual. Definitely prefer what's going on here than the current system in BF1.
Yeah, automatics actually, from 27 to 25, and to compensate for that, we moved the headshot multiplier to 2 times. So it looks like a minor changes, but actually helps a lot with, especially since you run on low health most of the time, was actually being able to survive. But for a normal player, I mean, for a player that can aim, that will actually not really change a lot. And we're also still looking at the netcode, and there's a lot of around that still.
Again, headshots more valuable, bigger head hitboxes than BF1, but is it worth the risk? That is a question you will have to ask yourselves. For me, definitely going for the headshots in close quarters. And yes, finally there will be changes to the STG.
So we're looking at the tint. We changed the tint itself, but we also made the crosshair a bit more visible, because what happens when you reduce the tint is that the crosshair also goes away. So we're making it a bit better. We're also looking at the LMGs, the performance in general. I know that during the open beta, the biped animation was a bit broken. Obviously, we fixed that, so now it will behave quite well. But we also have done changes across the board on those LMGs when it comes to recoil. One good example is the KE7, that is now our starter weapon. The horizontal recoil and vertical recoil got a bunch of adjustments to actually really fit what we're trying to build with that specific weapon.
Yeah, we found it a little too demanding compared to our other automatic rifles. It is a more heavy weapon class compared to the other ones, but we shaped it a bit into a bit more user-friendly.
New weapons too. This is the MG42.
We're going to start off though with the MG42, which actually is a weapon that has been seen in a couple of BF5 footage. So what is the MG42?
So the MG42 is a MMG, which is used by our support class. We haven't shown our MMGs for a little while. We showed an MG34 for the first closed alpha. And this is probably the heavy brother of the MG34. It has a super high rate of fire. It does a lot of damage. But it's also at the same time kind of hard to control, kind of hard to master. So it's in that sense way more demanding from the player. But if you do, you really are a beast with that thing.
Yeah, it's really good to lock down defensive areas. It fires at 1,000 rounds per minute, and it can be upgraded to up to 1,200 rounds per minute.
Yeah.
So it really
Yeah.
rains.
Yeah, it's a beast.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
1,200 rounds per minute, damn, that is insane.
Smg Spectrum, we have the Suomi, that is pretty much this super close range, high rate of fire weapon, and then we have the MP34 that fires much slower, but actually has a better ability to push a bit on the range. It can even actually take a little bit of some of the assault rifles, and we have a bunch of specialization that really help with tailoring the weapon experience to the player's playstyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, the Suomi is probably more on the really short range of the spectrum, and this weapon, MP34, is more on the other side. It's a bit more lenient in terms of its range.
Yep.
Honestly, I get the feeling bridges, or at least this kind of verticality that's going on here, is going to be some kind of core map design feature in this game. Let's hope they don't go too overboard. You know, we don't want too many maps where it kind of feels the same in places. You know, that's never a good idea.
Krag Jorgensen, which I think that's how you pronounce it.
Otherwise, you will hear about it.
Yes, for sure. Which is one of our bolt-action sniper rifles for the recon class. We've shown 2 sniper rifles so far, bolt-actions, and this one is probably more on the end of the Kar 98K, which is more kind of like our heavy variant of sniper rifles. It has a nice punch to it when you fire it, and it has a really cool reload animation as well.
That map looks insane. I can't wait to play that. I can't wait to snipe on that. That looks pretty cool.
With launch, we're introducing the Sturmgewehr 1.5, which is another assault rifle that fires a bit faster than the STG, and is a bit harder to control, so it's better suited for slightly shorter ranges than what the STG would be able to do. So it's a bit more specialized towards those ranges. It's a very cool weapon.
Plenty of more content to come in the future as well. I'm liking the sound of this.
Well, one thing that we can bring up is that we are already starting to look into weapons for our Tides of War seasons. And one thing that we really want to do is not only expand upon the existing weapon classes that we have, but also introduce new weapon classes post-launch, so that we can really deepen and kind of widen the player experience there, and allow for be more lenient on our ranges on certain classes, and that kind of fun stuff.
Also spotted here is the Lille Carbine. Probably butchered that name, my apologies. All sounds pretty good to me. Definitely looking forward to these changes. These maps are looking pretty fabulous, I gotta be honest. Those sniper moments there, oh, so much potential. So much potential. Definitely looking much more interesting to play as a non-sniper on this map compared to you know, like Suez or Sinai Desert. There looks like there is much more potential for other classes to succeed on these. Well, we'll have to see in the final game, but yeah. What do you think, guys? Are you looking forward to this game more now? What do you think about these updates? Do let me know down below. Hope you found this video helpful, and drop a like if you did. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.